What's up, guys? This is AC, your animal companion here, bringing you a pretty heavily requested guide here, which is how to play Orie against zoners. Um, so a big part of why I like Orie, like playing her and think she's good, is that she's got a great neutral, but even against characters who she does not straight up beat in neutral, like our friend Hilda over here, she's really good at playing the system mechanic version of Uni. She's really good at concentrating and shielding and dash blocking to get in and win against zoners after winning cycle. Once she gets resources, she really starts to shine against them. And I think that's one of her best traits. But I've noticed a lot of mid-level players, including you, mid-level Orie player, who is probably watching this, is not really good at the zoner matchup and probably need a little bit more structure to their game plan. What I notice when I see a lot of newer or intermediate level Ories, when they play against zoners, I see a lot of this. A lot of they get knocked down, back tech, get right here, B thrust. I'm in a situation in neutral, backdash, B thrust. I'm all the way over here, I don't know how to approach, jump FF. Jump assault FF. Stuff like that. FF assault. But it's really just, or of course just doing charge B thrust from full screen, because that's the Orie classic. So these habits are pretty dangerous. They're dangerous not because they're super risky, because a lot of people that do these things don't often get punished for them. Because, you know, B thrust is often saved on block. Even charge B thrust, it can be spaced to be safe, like that was -1. But whenever you just let this be your game plan, you're going to start folding to zoners pretty badly. They can just start zoning with fireballs, with normals, with jumping, especially, and all of that is going to beat B thrust. Also, when you start doing this, you don't force yourself to learn the mid-range game. And that is a very important part of becoming proficient with Orie, is learning how to operate in neutral at around this range. Okay, so with that introduction, let's look at what Orie's game plan looks like. Your game plan looks like at the beginning of the match, when you have no resources, no grid, no meter, you're going to play pretty honestly. You're going to either try to contest for cycle by concentrating out here, or you're going to do a lot of dash block to try to get in about this range as Orie, and then seeing if you can either shield to get cycle or start interacting with your opponent with stuff like Assault JC. Then once you do get meter, you get a lot more challenge options. You get this, you get this, you get this, and you also get CS, and that can really help you start running pressure as well. One disclaimer is that this is not a foolproof guide to beat every zoner. This is supposed to be a blueprint of what your game plan should look like against most zoners. You're still going to have to play against the player, you're still going to have to play against the character. This is definitely not a guide on how to beat Carmine 100% of the time. That thing doesn't exist. I don't think that character has any losing matchups. Beside the point, this is how I think Orie should be approaching most zoner matchups. And for the purpose of this guide, I'm going to call the following characters zoners. Hilda, Carmine, Batista, Usuria, Chaos, Phonon, maybe Kaguya, maybe Izuki, and that'll be it. No, not hide. Okay, so with that introduction out of the way, the first thing we're going to be covering is neutral without resources. This is just how you should think about the effective zones and where you are standing in neutral as Orie. Your goal here is to win grid or hit them, but usually it's going to be to win grid and get cycle. So there are 3 important ranges to think about these matchups in, and maybe 4. And the real key concept here is what I'm going to call effective range. So when I say effective range, I mean it's a range where the character can present multiple options to interact with their opponent and create an RPS scenario with those options. And also, whenever they get a hit at that range, that hit allows them to progress their win condition. So, for example, Orie's effective range without resources is about right here. This is the mid-range. Is what I'm calling the mid-range anyways. So she can do stuff like poke with 5B, poke with Divine Thrust. She can walk back and whiff punish. She can concentrate. She can jump, and she can do a dash in, which is hard to react to. And all of these things, if she gets a hit with them, she gets a knockdown, she can start running her game plan. Her win condition is being, like, advanced, right? And that's going to be off of pretty much any hit she can get in this range. Maybe not, like, meterless A thrust, but even stuff like stand moves. She can get a knockdown, start running her game plan. But it's only about right here without meter. On the other hand, you take a character like Hilda, her effective range, I'd say, is somewhere around right here, because this is where her 2C lands. So Hilda can do stuff like concentrate, she has good jump options, you see this JB, it's massive, good aerial movement, and zoning projectiles like the skewer, that's the fast one, this is the plus one. And Hilda, from this range, even without resources, can convert her hits into a full combo. So we said this is her effective range. Oops. Maybe I'll just do 660. Right? She gets a hit with this 2C and it means something. Not every one of her hits converts into that, but 2C, her jump-ins, a lot of stuff that she can do at her effective range out here is going to convert into hits, and she can run a full RPS situation, because she can concentrate, she can bait green shields, she can dash in, she can whiff punish, she can do a lot here. So why am I saying all this? The big thing that you want to think about without resources is Orie wants to be here, which is the mid-range, or she wants to be here, which is full screen. The in-between zone, about this range, this is what I'm going to call long range, and this is Hilda's best effective range, where Orie can't really contest her. And I know you, viewer, are thinking, but AC, what about Divine Thrust? This is Orie's signature move. Surely that can contest Hilda in the mid-range. And you're right, it can, but I consider this not to be Orie's effective range, because when she has no resources and she gets this hit, it does not matter. She gets 1300 damage, and she is plus 14 from this state afterwards. This is not advancing her game plan. And even though she can, like, concentrate here and jump, if the only, like, attack she is threatening is a 1300 damage move that gives her 0 Oki, she's not going to effectively advance her win condition from sitting in this range and trying to play footsies in most cases. There's some situations where you can do stuff like 66C or Assault JC, and those are good options. Those can convert into meaningful damage, but they are a little bit linear and a little bit telegraphed for your opponent to deal with. So what that means is that when you are playing Orie, your goal should be either dash block to get into this range, and especially when you start doing they're going to start doing block strings to zone you. Hilda's going to start doing stuff like 5B, 2B, like that, whatever. You're going to dash block and start trying to shield. Or you can try to go to full screen and concentrate and walk back and forth and just not be directly in Hilda's effective range, which is going to be about right here. So you want to be further out than this, like this distance, or you want to be about right here. And the goal is to dash block and try to contest cycle when you get there. You can occasionally do stuff like long range assault JC. That's definitely going to be Orie's best approach option and poke option from farther ranges. And you do still have to interact with your opponent to play this aspect of the game. But generally, you should want to get close to your opponent because you win when you are closer to the zoner. Okay. So, now that we've covered neutral without resources, what should you be doing against your opponent? You can think of this as what actions do you want to take against zoners as opposed to just where you want to stand. A very, very big, important thing to understand about zoners in this game. Zoners can frame trap you forever. What I mean by that is zoners have these strings that, like this, or this into a rebeat. After this, Hilda's -3. You're not contesting her here most of the time because we've just kind of established this is outside of your effective range. She's -3 here, she can effectively still take a turn. If you just try to mash your best button at whatever range they are when their string ends, you're just gonna die. Especially because a lot of zoners have like good stagger windows or good ways to just punish you for trying to mash at these different angles. You have to expect that you're going to get frame trapped as a layer 1. You're not just going to be able to mash on them. The second point is you use your passive defensive options to force them to stop frame trapping. When I say passive defensive options, I mean two things primarily. 1, dash block, and 2, shield. So the zoners in this game are really powerful, as we just established. Most other anime game zoners can't just frame trap you continuously for high reward from this distance, right? But this is balanced by the fact that Uni has very strong passive defensive options. So I'm actually going to be Hilda for a second here. If we turn our opponent to just reversal dash block, you see how she's gaining grid from blocking and from moving forward. That's really important. And that is something that you want to do whenever you are playing Orie against zoners. Kind of a word of caution, you don't want to be dash blocking literally every hit. Because I'm going to try to do a Hilda string where it has some notable gaps in it, but the bot's still going to try to dash block every single hit. See how she's doing those micro dashes in there because there's a tiny gap there? Don't do that. That is technically possible. You can technically dash block every single gap in these strings because you can block on frame 1, but it is very difficult and it's not really necessary. Instead, what you want to do is wait for Hilda to do the entire string, like this into rebeat, or this into a special move. And after that, you can dash block, because Hilda's going to be minus after that. So anytime she does this, or rebeat, you know she's negative, that's when you dash block in. And that should be enough to gain you a little bit of passive grid. The other thing that you really want to do against zoners is shield. Because Hilda does not want to be right next to you. So if you are right next to her at this range, she's probably going to try to use long block strings to push you out. So stuff like this. Oops. Yeah. She's going to try to do that block string. And that was pretty long, right? It's probably like, what, 5 hits? And then you see if I can just get a couple shields there, I get a massive grid swing down there at the bottom. So between passively shielding and dash blocking, you can gain a lot of grid against your opponents. Also, importantly, zoners don't really have a great way to directly punish these options. If you're playing against Orie, and Orie gets you to green shield this, she can dash up and throw you, because she's a really fast character that's designed to operate at this range and punish green shields, right? Zoners can't really do that. If a zoner sees you trying to... Electration hits 2. I think this is what I want. No, I think I have to be the other one. Yeah. So if a zoner sees you do something like... sees you trying to shield, it's going to look like this. You're going to green shield and block stun, right? And so if they swing into it, it's a successful shield for you, the defender. But if you just let it whiff, you get grid. The zoner gets grid. So that's what a lot of zoners are going to do. So when you are in a block string against a zoner, like this, you see, maybe I missed a green shield, because I predict they're going to go for a frame trap after that next option. They don't, they let the green shield whiff, and I lose a little bit of grid. Which is like a punish, but zoners aren't going to kill you for dash blocking and shielding in these matchups. That's a really big point. What they will do is, instead of starting to long strings like this, they're going to start doing shorter strings. Maybe they start doing something like that, right? And I'm trying to shield after this 5B, and they get a green shield bait. And you're like, wow, that's really good for them. But it also means they're doing a 5B rebeat. So I, as Orie, am +5 at this range. That's really big for me. It forces the zoners to either cut their strings short or start leaving really big gaps in their pressure. And that can be in the form of early rebeats like that. It can also be in the form of big pressure reset buttons, like this. That is a 35 frame startup move, but Hilda's +13 afterwards. Hilda might also do something like this, which is Gloom. That's like a 45 frame startup move, but it's extremely plus. Once you start leveraging dash blocking and shielding against zoners, they're going to have to start doing those things more often. And once they start doing that, they're not frame trapping you anymore, and you can start challenging them. So let's see what that looks like. What I have here, this next section, is going to be a section of all of Orie's best challenge options against zoning without meter, because we're still in meterless land right now. A lot of these are going to start being effective at this mid to long range, because this is Orie's effective range. And they're also going to start to call out specific options from the zoner. And I'll try to kind of just say what the options that you're looking to scout with each option is. So the first one, let's do an example here. Right, Hilda is going to do 2B, 2C, 2A whiff, 2CC. Usually this is pretty safe from that range for Hilda to do, but if I have a read on her, I can assault JC in and get a full combo. Extremely damaging. Assault JC is really good at stuffing grounded pokes, so 2C right there is a really obvious one from Hilda. Assault JC is going to clear this pretty much every time. It can also work against something like 6B. Sometimes. Sometimes. Well, I'll do 5B. Yeah. Maybe you have to be a little bit preemptive. Yeah. You have to be a little bit preemptive there, but it can work. It's also good against something like 6C, because this has a big dead zone. Then you can just assault in. Also works in stuff like I'm gonna mess this up, I know it. So what do you do for it? Yeah. Oops. This is a pretty common string from Yuzu. I think it's like B to Bato 6A B Bato, yeah. Like that. Okay, that was a good one. That's a really common like frame trap string from Yuzu, where they do the late B Bato, which is your long range mid one. They do that a little bit. They do that delay to catch like a B thrust or something like that. Assault JC can clear it. That's a really important one. It also works against stuff like Batista 2C, Phone on Fireball, obviously. Phone on. Phone on dies there. So, really important against a lot of grounded moves. Also, it's good on block, which is nice. +6 there. It can be more plus, doesn't really matter, but it can be more plus. So, super important option. Also, because Orie's JC is massive, it works from all the way out here. It's effectively a long-range poke, which is really good. But, as you can see right here, that's actually a 33 frame startup move because of how long you travel. The farther away it is, the longer startup it is. Why this is important is that Assault JC is pretty easy to stuff with reactive play. So I'll just do it with Hilda. Right, she's just gonna jump and then Assault JC. If I shield it, it should be a punish. Let me see if I... Yeah, I want to do it earlier. Yeah, punish. You can shield assault jump-ins in this game for a punish if they do it predictably, and that becomes a lot easier when they do it out here. You're gonna get these assaults shielded a lot more than you're gonna get these assaults shielded, because they're a lot slower. One thing you can do to kind of hedge against this is you can do your assault and then delay the JB, or delay the JC, like that, so that even if they shield, I'll put shield on. See that? 0 on block, I'm still safe. If I delay my JC a lot. I do it right here though, I'm -8, I'm getting punished. Do it like that, I'm -8, I'm getting punished. Delay it, -1, I'm safe. So that's one way to kind of hedge against them just doing delay shield, or stand shield in reaction. Also, occasionally you can do something like this, which is like a super delayed option you see there, frame 49 startup, but if maybe you think they're going to backdash or they're going to press a really delayed button and not react well to it, you can do this and you can catch them, and it's also a really good starter. So that's assault. That's how you can use assault to challenge. In a similar vein, let's look at Orie's jump and FF. So, from jump, this is mostly going to be a defensive, like, kind of holding my ground answer for you as Orie. You expect the zoner to run in at you. Is really good at holding your ground. She occupies a ton of space. She's always plus. She can delay her timings by either just doing JC or doing J2 and 4A or J2 and 4B. She can even jump or assault assault or FF after the jump. Pretty good for whenever you think your opponent's going to run in at you, which isn't super often. But if you're playing Cycle correctly, zoners are going to just not just let you run up into them. They'll see that you're going to be at this range, and then they'll just try to... will just say, oh, they're going to keep dash blocking me. What if I run up and throw them as the zoner, right? So sometimes, like a defensive jump, if you think they're going to start being aggressive, is good. And JC and J2 and 4 are good for that. Kind of in the same vein, Orie's FF, really good at crushing other mid-range pokes because it's very evasive. As we can see, it'll crush a lot of pokes, a lot of dash blocks, depending on which FF you choose. And from this, you're pretty much always just going to want to do J2 and 4B because it's plus 12 on block. It's an amazing starter. Plus on shield. Hits both sides. It's just going to be the button off of FF usually. But both jump and FF are pretty much more effective in the mid-range. Alright. Next challenge options to go over are 5B and 3B. These are the pokes that you want to do if you expect your opponent to jump. So, for 5B, you're going to look for something like you do a string, and then you expect them to jump afterwards, or you expect them to, like, assault afterwards, right? That's the hit you're looking for with this 5B. And that's going to happen a fair amount against zoners, because zoners are pretty jump happy. So 5B, 2, and 4B, gonna hit them out of the air. That's the hit you're looking for. 3B is more of a hard call out on up back because it has a really good horizontal range. So that is a hit you're gonna get a fair amount. You can get that from round start. You can also just see when, like, get a note of their have some pressure. Just do run up 3B, 2, and 4 them into a full combo. It's a pretty nice tool to have. Kind of another. Can I just do? Yeah, sure. Let's just do backstep. Another kind of fun one is maybe you're expecting a backdash. You can do 2 and 4 to punish it, but this is also really important just against your opponent walking back. Because maybe they're trying to play footsies with Orie for whatever reason. They expect you're going to whiff something big like a B thrust, and they're just walking backwards. A 2 and 4A or dash 2 and 4A is your longest range low, so it can really clip your opponents who are trying to, like, play footsies with you and just walk back forever and play passive. So it's a nice option to have. What I tell people is you've played against Eltnum, and you see Eltnum always just, in really annoying timings, she's going to sit there, crouch, and then mash 2C. Dash, mash 2C, even into 2 and 4. These are really long range lows that it's annoying because I want to walk back against you and you're not letting me. Your goal is to do that, except for instead of L2C, you're doing it with this. This is a kind of specific challenge option because it's pretty slow. It's 15 frames, and especially like zoners have much better frame data at this range. So at round start, 15 frames, whereas Hilda, she has this, which is I think 12 frames, maybe it's 11. This at 10 and 11. They're just going to be a lot faster at this range because they're zoners and their privilege is being really fast at this range, faster than Orie even. Also, 2 and 4A is not good against jumping. Here, I'm going to have them assault at me. If I try to 2 and 4A, they'll just assault right over it and they will hit you for it. So not great against jumps unless you can get them to respect that, but mostly to use to try to catch their ankles while they're walking back. Next is 66C. This is Orie's longest range normal. Also very good reward on hit, and it's pretty fast, 11 frames plus travel time. So, I don't know, maybe that's like 15 frames or so by the time it gets to her. This is a really good move, but you don't want to use it too much, especially in this range. At this range, it's super dangerous to do. Here, it's safer, because here it's going to cover walk back and backdash really cleanly, but here when you're using it as the longest range poke you have to interrupt them out of their pressure, it gets pretty risky. First, let me show the combo on A. Whoops. There you go. 3.4 for hitting a dash C from this range. It's really good reward. But it is terrible against jumps. This move has a ton of recovery. You see the total duration of the move is 55 frames. So something like 20 or 30 frames of recovery, which is pretty darn bad. And zoners love to jump. Hilda would love to just sit here jumping around and dive kick you for it, and this is one of Hilda's best starters. So if you are ever wrong about challenging Hilda from this range and she jumps, she can dive kick you for like, I don't know, 3.8, something like that. It's a pretty easy call out for them and a really good starter. So be careful using 660 at this range. I think it's better when you're this range and you're trying to call out a backdash. I think it's really nice in those situations. But be careful about using it from here. Also, 660 and dash moves in general are designed to be, like, not advantageous on block. Your turn should end pretty quickly after you do this. You know, like, you can do that, but then you're -5, and then you can enter a shield RPS, or you can do it 2FF and JA, but that really loses hard to up back and dash block. The RPS situation after a block 660 is not supposed to be advantageous. So on average, you should be either losing some grid or losing your turn if they block 660. So don't use it too much as a crutch. It can be a pretty bad habit. Alright, and the last challenge option calls out them just being passive. If you think they are just going to sit there and down back and do absolutely nothing because they're waiting for you to assault or J2 or 660 or something like that, you're in the mid-range, just dash up and throw them. Orie's got just good dash speed. And I think a lot of Ories forget about how good this option is or how good this option is because they're so focused on this. This is really good. And when they're looking out for Divine Thrust and they're trying to just block or whiff punish it, this becomes a lot better against them. Also, you're not going to get point blank to them every single time. Sometimes you just get a 5A on block. Sometimes you get this string on block or this on block before they start mashing. And that's fine. You're still entering the mid-range and starting pressure with normals. And that's a neutral win for you. Alright, now we're getting to the good stuff. Now we understand how neutral and defense operates on Orie when you have no resources. You've got to dash block a lot, you play for cycle a lot, if you get a read, you go for one of these, you go for, one of these, you go for one of these. But with resources, it really changes, because Orie gets access to stuff like C Thrust. But this doesn't mean you can just throw the entire game plan out the window. Remember, zoners can still frame trap you forever. That's going to be hard to interrupt even with meter. You're going to have to be pretty clean for it. And especially if you're playing a character like Uteria or Batista that are better at interrupting some of Orie's metered options, you're still going to have to respect them a lot. So the updated game plan looks something like zoners can frame trap you forever. You still need to use passive defensive options to make them stop frame trapping. But once they start leaving gaps in their pressure, a window to punish them starts opening up a whole lot. So the biggest section here is going to be over Orie's 236C or C Thrust. C Thrust is an incredible move. It is 6 frames. nearly full screen. So 6 frame plus travel time, nearly full screen. One of her best starters, and it is the best whiff punish tool in the game. You can structure your entire neutral game plan around this move, threatening with it, playing footsies with it, and then whiff punishing your opponent with it. Here's what that looks like. So if you're Hilda and she's thinking, oh, I'm at long range, I'm going to press 2C. That's one of her best tools. We've just been over that Orie does not have a great way to contest 2C, right? But now, once Orie has 100 meter, she has the same effective range as Hilda, because she can whiff punish. So I'm sitting right here in long range. This is previously the no fun zone for Orie. Punish. Knew better combo there. I was a little bit far to get the optimal. And it's not the only thing you can punish. That's Hilda 6C. Punish. What about something like Skewer? Whoops. Skewer. Crouch under. Punish. It's not just Hilda either. You think, wow, Yuzu has such scary effective range. Look at this Bibato. It's nearly full screen. And that's true. It is nearly full screen. But it is not full screen, so punish. Go over a couple more fun ones. Punish. Punish. Even a counter hit on that one. I think you just do this on block, right? Oh, not just that. Yeah, -10. You're dead. Dead. There's one. Punish. You get the idea. What this allows you to do is you can sit at this range and you can concentrate and play for cycle, and the zoner is either forced to approach you and get into this range for Orie, your mid-range, your best range, or they're kind of risk trying to like poke you and then get whiff punished with 2 through 6C. And most zoners have something they can do from this range, like Kuon can do his Bean Needle, which hits full screen, but it's not going to be a full confirm into their best starter, because this is outside of their effective range. But now you have the same effective range as them, so you can play footsies with them from over here. Also worth noting, you can't just strictly do that as your neutral game against characters with fireballs, because we know Orie does not like fireballs. You're never going to whiff punish phone on just doing fireball. Like, fireball's always going to be good against you until you get to this range where you can assault it. That's fine. But it's really powerful to get zoners to not feel comfortable pressing something at this space. Okay, next use for 2 through 6C. This is gonna... There are a lot of uses for this move, if you can't tell. So there are some things that are a guaranteed punish or interrupt in the middle of a block string. So we've got phone on here. She likes to do this, right? This move hits mid-screen, hits me jumping, -8 on block. Whoops. That's a punish. I'll go over a lot of them for Hilda, but there's stuff like 2-2. This is -8 on block. That means if I'm close enough, this is a punish. And this one, also -8 on block. I probably have to shield it to punish it. Also, stuff like this BDP, which is plus, long startup, you can interrupt it. This, you can interrupt it. I'll go over more of them, but once you start really learning matchups, also stuff like, I'll show some more fun ones. Just interrupt that for Izuki if she's doing something like that, which is plus on block for some reason. You can interrupt it. This requires good awareness, it requires matchup knowledge, and it requires, like, practice. But Orie can do this to a lot of stuff in the game. And the dynamic here is important because zoners want to do these, like, long startup plus on block moves when you're shielding. And that's because... Let me record 2 strings really quick. Actually, I can do something simpler than that. Let's see Hilda's doing this string. That's 2cc DP, right? And I'm going to green shield in response to the 2cc because she almost always has to special cancel it. And that's going to give me some grid. Great. But if Hilda starts recognizing that, and she does that, see how my green shield whiffs, and they do not bleed any grid because the move is so delayed. So it's so delayed that it does not activate most green shields, and it lets them be plus on block. So once Orie starts representing a lot of shield and dash block, they are more incentivized to go for these big pressure reset options like Hilda's BDP. And because they're forced to, or more incentivized to do stuff like that, you can interrupt them with C-Thrust. The last thing is a little bit more niche, but I still think it's worth showing. Yuzuri is my case here. So Yuzu likes to get into stance and then act like a shithead, right? She likes to do stuff like this and frame trap you forever, and then once you start shielding, she just does these empty stance jumps at you. So stuff like that, right? She can frame trap you there, but once you start shielding, she's going to do more empty stance jumps to catch your shields and to catch your movement, stuff like that. C-Thrust is really good at interrupting that. It hits high up, it's going to be a full combo no matter where it hits. Yuzus usually feel very safe when they just get to jump around at full screen. This is a safe place for them. And you can just punish them for that, which is a pretty nice option. It's a little bit more niche, but it's a nice option. Next we've got just regular A and B thrust. These moves get fully unlocked whenever you have meter because you can use them at the long range like this, and they are safe pokes. And then if they ever hit, she can confirm off of them for a full combo. And that's great. There's definitely... Like, B-Thrust is definitely the better, like, long-range poke. It's also better at catching jumps if you think they're going to be jumping. And you can get a full confirm for that. It's a little bit of a weirder combo, but... yeah, you have to do the delay 2C pickup there, but it still works. So that's better there. A-Thrust is better at close range, because it is really good on block. -4 on block, and very few characters in the game can interrupt, like, thrust as a block string. Additionally, you can do stuff like 6A, 6A, 2 and 4C on +7. Time for you to hold pressure, or BC, and then you have, you can threaten a throw before the Thanatos comes down. There's a lot of things you can do with that. Alright, next meter challenge option is J2 and 4C. This one, you definitely want to just use this as an extension of your jumps. So earlier we were talking about Orie's jumps and FFs being really evasive and good at stuffing buttons in the mid-range. One of my favorite things to stuff here is Yuzu doing, was it jump 6A? Yeah, this. Yuzu likes to do this, right? Like that. Oops, I didn't record it. Yeah, I don't want that. Let's pretend that that's an actual Yuzu string. She really wants to do that a lot closer to the ground and, like, aim down at me. But if I'm not directly getting hit by that, like against Yuzu, I'll often do, like, jump forward, and if she does her air Kire's, like, aim down here, it'll whiff on me, then I can do this for a full whiff punish. And then it's just good anytime, like, jump and FF is gonna make a move, is gonna bait a, just evade a grounded move. Yuzu's down here trying to press 2FF. You breathe the 2FF, you get a full combo. It's also a plus on block. It's just a fantastic option. Still mostly effective in the mid-range, but it's definitely one of the footsies options of all time. Also, you do have to predict your opponent is going to try to do a button or an anti-air. But if you predict it, you get a huge reward. Next, whenever you have meter, you can do... Or whenever you have CS, rather. You can do that. This is really good because... You can do that, and it'll grid break them. Also, even just on block, you get to just dash in their face with that happening, and you can throw them, or you can shimmy them. It's really strong because it allows you to start doing 660 from these ranges back here. And you have a way better situation on blocks. That's pretty nice. Last thing is, there's a couple more things. So Orie has a really good horizontal reversal. She's got this. This is mostly just used to interrupt strings that you normally couldn't interrupt or to close out rounds. So there's a lot of situations where guard all. Hilda is like minus 12 here, so her options are to special cancel this or to... She's always going to want to special cancel this and it'll leave a gap, right? Even though I did C thrust there, the C thrust would get frame trapped, but the Sacred Spire gets it. And if she tries to no cancel this, she'll still get God. Right? Punish. So that's a pretty nice way to end rounds and to avoid the big horizontal frame traps from zoners. It's also good against this really applicable one. Batista does 5cc. She usually does that into B-ball, or she can even do 5BB laser, or 5cc laser. I don't know that. That looks gapless, actually. Okay, let's do B-ball then. Oops. It catches pretty much every one of Batista's special cancel options, and also catches her doing no cancel. So pretty nice to get out of kind of checkmate situations like that. Last one, pretty specific one, to be honest. Sometimes you'll see Hilda do this kind of stuff. Just be an annoying little shithead at the top of the screen. You just hit her for it. 214 BC. Obelisk. I'm going to try to call this Obelisk more. That's the actual name for it. Okay. Just a couple more sections. We're almost done with it now. Your offensive game plan against zoners should look pretty similar to how it does against every other character in the game. You just want to run strike throw. You can layer in 6Bs, because I know you guys love that. But zoners have more limited defensive options and weaker, like, mash options and system mechanics things. Like, most zoners have a bad backdash, right? This is like 43 frames, I think, for Hilda. It is pretty darn long. No, it's like 30 something. No character has 30 something frames. Really slow. They like to, their backdashes are bad. They like to jump a lot. Their mash options aren't great. So you do need to learn how to run sometimes greedier offense against them, or just you can afford to run offense that does more hard callouts. Like against the zoner, I might do more run up 3B as a string, right? To just call out up back before just going to my regular block string, as opposed to just run up 5A. Just start it with a run up 3B. So that's pretty nice. Also, there is some stuff that I really like one of my favorite Oki options is this 2C into neutral jump JC. This will get you killed against any character with a DP, but if they do not have a DP, I'll show it. Hilda's a character is relying on Veil off for a reversal, right? Yeah, she's dying. She's exploding there. So that's a pretty nice Oki option. You can kind of lab out stuff like that, which is just better against characters who only have VO. Another big dynamic is with characters, like a lot of zoners have some zoners have very good defensive options, but they're risky. So I'm talking about Kuon and Batista Flash Kick. These are like pretty much one-button DPs, which are incredible in this game. They can throw OS with them, they can anti-air with them, they can do, Batista can do this, and it does like 4K if she's optimal. They're really powerful options. It's also like, if they do it on neutral CS, oh, not control gun. That's like throwing Vuln frame 1 for some reason. Really powerful option, but you just die if they get baited. So this is going to be super player dependent, but some people will be like, will make the decision, I think they're going to flash kick here, I'm going to hard bait it. If I'm right, I win the round, maybe the game. Same thing goes with VO, because let's say, get back to not using Hilda. Let's say this is the situation where both characters at like 40% life, and Orie gets a throw. If Hilda does wake up VO here, she could win the round, but if she has 200 meter and she chooses to VO here, she could very well, she automatically loses this round if it gets baited, and she probably loses the next one too, because she goes into it with 0 meter. So these are really high risk, high reward defensive options that your opponents are dealing with. So whether or not you choose to bait them is going to be a huge seal. And there are some players who would say very strongly, I would never bait the VO here, or I would always bait the VO here because it's their only path to win the game. That's the kind of risk-reward calculus that you start doing against zoners with these all-or-nothing reversals. Okay, so I've done a lot of yapping, but I just wanted to do a quick example of everything that I've talked about here so far, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the Hilda matchup. As you might have guessed, I used to play Hilda. I used to be a Hilda player. That's my dark past. So I know the character pretty well. That's why I've been using her for so many examples, and I kind of think about zoners through the lens of Hilda because that's who I really learned the game with. And this game plan that I've written out here is pretty much how I think about the Hilda matchup. So let's talk about, and to be clear, I think Orie destroys Hilda. I think she dog walks this character. I think it's not close. I'm I think Orie, the matchup is 65-35 Orie favored, something like that. A pretty brutal matchup for Hilda, but Hilda's also a very strong character. She has access to meterless 50-50, she has access to looping set play, she has great meter economy, she's a strong character. You can absolutely lose to Hilda, but I do think Orie wins. Hilda has a lot of stuff that is tricky if you've never seen it before. She has access to standing overheads, like that. Or like this. She has 3 versions of pin. That's B. That's C, that's B, this is A. Different versions of pin. If you charge it up for like 5 seconds, you get the massive pin that looks like this. Oh no, I messed it up. Gonna have to wait again. Something like 500 frames, right? Oh my god, I timed out. Anyways, she can do a lot of different pins, and that's tricky. She has this. She has long-range lows like this. This 2C is a mid, but 2CC, the follow-up, is a low. And she has either good rebeats out here, or she has a safe block string ender in A spike, which this is -4. She can even, like, sometimes reset with that, and with glue. Also, Hilda might do something like that, to reset pressure, because that's plus on block. So, without resources, when you were playing against Hilda without resources, you pretty much want to be in this range. You're going to be playing passively until you get a read on your opponent. You can concentrate out here if it'll secure you cycle, and the only thing Hilda can really do is, you know, send a skewer, but you can just, like, shield that on reaction. Sometimes she'll do something like that, which that is a full screen low. Watch out for that. But generally she's not super threatening from full screen, so you want to avoid the long range, just get into the mid range. Assault is good versus her. All the system mechanics are good versus her. So it's pretty manageable for Hilda until Orie gets to 100 meter. Whenever Orie gets 100 meter, let's examine the matchup through Hilda's perspective. Let's look at neutral. Orie is sitting at about this range, right? You're Hilda. If you 2C, you get punished. You do your whiff cancel normal, 5EB. Whoops. You get punished. There's a pretty nasty, like, guessing game on something like this. So, 2C, 2A whiff is a common string of hers, but if I dash block, I'll get in the dead zone for that, for the 6-6C. But if I just walk back, I can whiff punish like that. That's pretty terrifying. Maybe she just zones with skewers. Oops. Maybe she just zones with skewer. Well, turns out you can duck under skewer, and what that means is you can just punish it. I don't think this works on the B skewer, which is the slower one that's plus on block. Yeah, I think this one is safe. Does it hit crouchers? No, I just messed up. Yeah, that one's not actually punishable, but it's interruptible, so pick your poison there. She can try to do something like this, but even this you can punish on whiff. So sometimes Hilda will do something like this, or that. And you can punish that on reaction to the whiff. So what does Hilda do here, right? She, like, Orie can sit here, can concentrate, can threaten to win cycle. She can walk back with the best walk speed in the game and whiff punish any normal or special you do. If you approach her, she has the scariest mid-range in the game and has Assault JC, which goes at the same range as your longest buttons. And once you get up and even start running your pressure, if she's representing shielding and dash blocking a lot, it's really scary to do pretty much any string against her. Because we talked about this move, right? Maybe that's like a regular block string ender for you. But it's -8 on block, so if I'm close enough, I can just punish it. Maybe we're not that close, but see, this one is usually a little farther around. Whoops. This one's a little farther away, so you're not going to be able to... Oh, wow, that did punish. If Orie just shields that, she can punish that from pretty much any range. If she does this and tries to, like, catch me walking in like that, or tries to catch me walking back with a low, I can whiff punish her. Maybe she tries to avoid the green shield by going for this, right? This is a 35 frame move. If I'm Orie, I can see thrust it on startup. Maybe she tries to do that, right? Whoops. Do this big overhead. Maybe that'll try to crush a shield or something. Well, first of all, Orie can get 5 shields or so off of it, and if you just look at what that does to the cycle, it means anytime you do this, you risk instantly losing cycle, and also, Orie can interrupt it on startup with C-thrust because it moves so quickly. We've already talked about the dead zones for these moves and how Orie can play around them by dash blocking. Also, that move is -11 on block if she no-cancels it. So, you can just get punished there. I think it also works with 66B. This one's only -7, but we'll see. So C-thrust can punish there. You can still frame trap that, but especially off of something like 66C for Hilda. This is a situation where... Oh, it should work. Oh man, I can't get the reversal. Yeah, that should punish. Maybe I have to be a little closer, but it's a good option. Maybe Hilda is just going to try to anti-air you with something like FF, right? That's a really good anti-air. But it is, you guessed it, -6 on block. Orie blocks it. All over here. That's a punish. Easy. Also, maybe you try to reset some strings with Gloom, right? This is an extremely easy reaction. That's a 45 frame move. You can have very slow reaction to still punish that. Also, if Hilda does something like this, oops. I think you can see thrust that, but this is an extremely consistent punish. And also, we've been over. If she does this, or you can crouch under it, and it's a punish. So it's worth noting that Hilda just does not automatically die if Orie gets close to her. Orie still has to play the RPS between dash blocking and shielding and challenging. And she can lose that. Also, like, Hilda has a lot of ways to spend meter to keep her pressure going. Maybe she can do this into that, and... Yeah, I'll do this again. That might... Trades. That is so unfortunate for her. So, maybe that, like, she can do something like that. She can also do something like... that. And that's plus. But she has to spend meter on it. Maybe she does something like... Skewer Roomba. That's pretty safe, and then you're playing the Roomba RPS. You can definitely lose against Hilda, but the point I'm trying to make is that the risk reward and the RPS situations in Hilda's pressure become really advantage for Orie as soon as Orie gets 100 meter. So that's all I have for now. I do hope this guide was helpful for you. I hope you guys learn to dash block and start using your meter and your options a little bit more intentionally in these matchups. Also, I think these matchups are just super fun because it is a lot of player-to-player interaction. You can play mind games around when they're going to frame trap, when they're going to jump, stuff like that. And your reward for doing it well is a really fun and advantage matchup for Orie depending on them. So I'll put the link in the description for the written guide, and I'll see you guys next time.